What are the limbs that you should cut off in order to enter into the kingdom of God? Sin has been a part of human life since the fall of the first parents in Genesis. This fall of man separated the whole humanity from God. Those who sin fail to understand God's enormous love. There are sins against God as well as sins against neighbor. Sins can be divided into two categories according to their gravity. They are mortal sins and venial sins. If a sin is about a grave matter and committed with full knowledge and consent, we may call it a mortal sin. A venial sin means a sin with less serious matter, committed without full knowledge and consent. All kinds of sins distort the beauty of human soul, and today's readings are about the occasions of sin. In today's gospel, Jesus tells his disciples to get rid of the organs which leads them to sin. He tells, if your hand makes you fall into sin, cut it off. If your foot makes you fall into sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, tear it out. The Lord tells us it is better to enter into heaven without one of your limbs than to be thrown into hell. Is Jesus so radical to amputate the limbs because they lead us to sin? In fact, here the Lord uses a figurative language. Figuratively, Jesus refers to those persons, places, objects which lead a person into serious sin. In other words, occasions of sin. These occasions of sin would destroy the spirit and deprive us of God's loving relationship. Here, Jesus Christ is inviting us to sacrifice the things which prevent us from going to heaven. Also, Christ reminds us two of the four last things, namely heaven and hell. As tradition says, there was a garbage pit outside Jerusalem, which was ever burning with fire. This was called Gehenna. This concept was applied to show how hell looks like as opposed to heaven. In other words, hell is the garbage pit of the kingdom of God. Lord tries to depict the ugliness of it by saying that it is where the worms that eat them would never die. In today's context, what are the occasions of sin? In fact, we have lots of invisible eyes, hands and legs in our life. They are so connected to our life just as limbs. These are the things that we cannot do away with. These habits, persons, things are so much connected to us just as limbs. The invisible eyes that we have are our addiction to pornography, lustful looks and jealous eyes. Today, the Lord is inviting you and me to pluck them out. Moreover, there are invisible hands which try to grab alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, and extramarital relationships. Lord is asking us to root out these occasions of sin. Next, there are invisible legs that run after prostitutes, bad friends, and many other vices. Lord is asking you and me today, can you do away with them? In this manner, Jesus is not telling us to amputate our organs, but he is asking us to root out the occasions of sin. Therefore, let us understand this. How to get rid of the occasions of sin. If you have contact numbers of bad people in your phone, you need to blacklist them. If you have bad friends who encourage you to sin, you should be away from them. If you are a victim of pornography, you should disconnect your internet connection at night and when you are alone. If you are an alcoholic, you should avoid liquor parties. If one is addicted to fornication, he needs to get rid of those who put him into temptation. In a nutshell, you should remove the things, people and places which leads you to sin. So, in this sinful world, we need to save our souls and one day enter into heaven. Therefore, let us root out the occasions of sin from our life and try to remain holy and faithful.